Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity so that I can make my contribution to this very important bill. And from the onset, I must thank the sponsor of the bill, Honorable Mary Wamaua. As it has been said by my fellow colleagues who have spoken before me, the bill is timely. And the bill proposes changes to the Basic Education Act 2013 to establish sub-county education board in each sub-county. And the objective of the bill is to decentralize education oversight by creating localized boards which are under the guidance of the county education boards. Honorable Speaker, this bill is very important because it touches at the education sector at a time when we are having a lot of crisis in the education sector. We are grappling with the question around capitation in our schools. We are grappling with the question around university funding model, the inadequate JSS classrooms, the inadequate laboratories, lack of infrastructure, lack of teachers, so many challenges in the education sector currently. And one of the theaters where these challenges are playing out is actually at that lower level, particularly at the sub-county level, where most of those challenges actually exhibit their ugly heads in a very big way. Honorable Speaker, it should not be lost to us that education is actually the equalizer of society. And being an equalizer of society, we also have a lot of other things that make us not realize that equalization bit of education as the equalizer of society. For example, we have differences in some of our regions, socioeconomic inequalities. We have systemic inequalities. And then what I've said earlier about lack of infrastructure. Now, coming to the bill, the bill is very important for those reasons I've mentioned. And for example, if you look at, there are certain areas that I would like Honorable Mary Wamaua to look at in terms of trying to enrich this bill. For example, in 18A3B, when the bill talks about, in consultation with residents of the sub-county, recommend institutions that may receive funding for infrastructural development funding. This is a good proposal. It enhances public participation in a way, and it should be strengthened. But I'm wondering why, despite of many challenges we have in the education sector, why are we zeroing down on infrastructural development funding only? Maybe you can expound it a little bit so that you can include not just infrastructural development funding, but also the questions around, you see, 50% of our students are left behind due to lack of appropriate electronic devices and lack of electricity, lack of connectivity. So perhaps that can be expounded a bit to include other areas slightly, not just infrastructural development. When you look at 18C, perhaps Honorable Mary Wamaua can also consider this. It says 18C1, every sub-county education board shall consist of a chairperson and 6 other members appointed by the cabinet secretary through an open competitive process. I'm wondering why open competitive process when these members, sub-county director of education, county executive in charge of education, person designated by TSE, these officers are already working in other institutions and they just need to be appointed by those institutions to join the board. Why the competitive recruitment? I think that's an area, Honorable Member, you can look at. And then the question around, I think Honorable Wamaua talked very nicely about the inclusion of members of parliament in this board. I would beg to differ slightly, and perhaps you may look at it from my perspective. MPs provide oversight. And I think, given that and the challenges we have had before, including with the NGCDF fund, there is no need of including an MP in this sub-county board. The MPs can remain to provide the oversight, and other members can become part of the board. And when we look at 18C again, 2F, when we talk about the 2 educationists of at least 5 years standing based in sub-county nominated by the teacher, this is a very good idea, and I support it fully. But if you read this in relation to 18G, where you're talking of a sub-county education board may from time to time co-opt in its membership. Once you have these two professionals, educationists, I don't think the purpose for having a co-opted member was supposed to bring in perhaps experience and expertise. We already have the expertise there. It's my opinion. I think that the two experts who are already there are sufficient. We don't need to co-opt other experts because those ones can play that same role. And then in section, section, that was section 8. Sorry. That is 18C again, part 6. The staff of the sub-county education board shall be person serving under the county public service board of the respective county. I think we can also rethink about that, because looking at the separate functions of the county governments and the national government in relation to education, one concerned with the ECD and the other one concerning with the basic education, perhaps you may find some challenges along the way if the staff of the sub-county, the sub-county education board are from the county public service board. And finally, Honorable Speaker, in section 18F, the members of the sub-county education board shall be paid by the organizations they represent in the board such allowances and disbursements for expenses as may be approved by the cabinet. It's a good idea, but if you look at it from the independence perspective, if you want these board members to be independent, perhaps you will want to have the board pay its own board members and not those institutions which have seconded them to the board. If you want to assure that there is independence in conduct of the business of the board, and also the question around uniformity of what allowances to be paid, the board may decide to pay certain allowances which is not equivalent to the same allowance they are paid by the institutions. And again, as I said, 18G might not be necessary if we have the other two experts involved. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Those are my comments, and I would urge other members to fully support this bill so that we can pass it in record time. Thank you.